Salt Lake City, President Donald Trump announced Monday that he is drastically scaling back 2 national monuments established in Utah by his Democratic predecessors, the largest reduction of public lands protection in U.S. history. Trump's move to shrink the Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante national monuments by more than 1.1 million acres and more than 800,000 acres, respectively, immediately sparked an outpouring of praise from conservative lawmakers as well as activists' protests outside the White House and in Utah. It also plunges the Trump administration into uncharted legal territory since no president has sought to modify monuments established under the 1906 Antiquities Act in more than half a century. His decision removes more than 2 million acres from the 2 sites, which potentially could now be leased for energy exploration or opened for specific activities such as motorized vehicle use. "You know best how to conserve these lands for many, many years to come," Trump told a rally in Salt Lake City. Conservatives have long sought to curb a president's unilateral power to safeguard federal lands and waters under the law, a practice that both Democrats and Republicans have pursued since it was enacted under Theodore Roosevelt. The issue has been a particular flashpoint in the West, where some local residents feel the federal government already imposes too many restrictions on development and others, including tribal officials, feel greater protections of ancient sites are needed. Even before Trump made the announcement as part of a day trip to the state, National Cattlemen's Beef Association Craig Uden was hailing the resized designations. "We are grateful that today's action will allow ranchers to resume their role as responsible stewards of the land and drivers of rural economies," Uden said. "Going forward, it is critical that we reform the Antiquities Act to ensure that those whose livelihoods and communities depend on the land have a voice in federal land management decisions." State Sen. Kevin Van Tassel, a Republican from Vernal, said there was widespread support in the legislature for Trump's move and among Utah residents, who he said have respect for the state's resources. "People are tired of the federal government locking up our land," he said. "It's an overreach. Imagine if you put one of these monuments smack dab in the middle of New York." But a series of rallies that opponents began over the weekend continued Monday at the Utah Capitol, where about 300 demonstrators were gathered before Trump arrived. Against the backdrop of the dome and snowy grounds, they chanted "Lock him up" and lofted signs reading "Fake President" and "Pussy Grabber." Roughly 5,000 people have protested there since Saturday, according to one of the organizers, Lindsay Beebe. Conservation advocates and tribal representatives have for months been preparing legal briefs that aim to block the monument changes in federal court. Doug Weaver, a partner at the firm Hogan Lovells who represents the Conservation Lands Foundation, Utah Dine Baikia and other groups, said the watershed moment on this issue came with the 1976 Federal Land Policy and Management Act. Congress made very clear, as a matter of law, that they intend to delegate only that which has been expressly delegated in terms of management of federal lands, he said, which would mean a president can establish a monument under the Antiquities Act but not rescind or substantially reduce a site, he added.